Hi there. Thank you so much for joining us for Face the State today. I'm Tracy Townsend. This week marked the launch of a new strategy to address the lack of affordable housing in Central Ohio. The Emerging Developers Accelerator Program, or EDAP, focuses on underrepresented developers, women, and developers of color. EDAP is the dream of Lark Mallory, who is president and CEO of the Affordable Housing Trust for Columbus and Franklin County. She believes helping the developers with access to information, education, and capital will help supply the demand in the housing crisis.
We're the fastest growing community in Ohio, second fastest in the Midwest. We have got to start talking about housing and the supply side of housing today if we're going to get this done, and being intentional. So with this program, am I allowed to just? So what this program does is says we're going to reach out to those small emerging developers, provide them with access to information, access to capital so that they can get in the pipeline on the supply side so that we can start talking about the demand side of our housing issue.
What's happening now?
Right now, these guys are in the space, right? So this program is an accelerator program. They are already in the space. They need access to information, access to capital so that they can grow and bring us more housing units online.
Might be a crazy question, but what's taking us so long to get to this point?
I wasn't here.
You weren't here.
I wasn't here. No, seriously. Last May, I attended a webinar, and I heard about what they were doing on the East Coast. That was last May, May 21, right? So that it just inspired me. If they can do it on the East Coast, why don't we do that here? So I started researching, talking to a lot of other programs around the country, pulled bits and pieces from programs, and now this is our EDAP.
And then the last thing I want to ask you, I was at your website, and you share your story and how you relate to how tough it is to work and have a home, and how much does that come into what's happening here today?
Okay, you're gonna make me get emotional. It was actually a girlfriend, a mentor, Donna James. Donna said, Lark, tell your story, and tell your story about why it matters. If it weren't for my family, right? I was my grandmother. If it wasn't for my grandmother, I could have easily been a foster kid, aging out and looking for a place to live, like what they're doing with Star House. But because I had a family who embraced me, supported me, I went to college, went to law school, went and got a master's in tax law because I had a family. And that was the difference there. And what we're saying to these emerging developers, we are going to surround you with what you need so you can get this done. It's personal. We're not talking about widgets. We're talking about lives here.
The Affordable Housing Trust for Columbus and Franklin County is a nonprofit lender, and it is leading this program. There are major funders involved here in this public-private partnership: the City of Columbus, Franklin County, and private businesses, including JPMorgan Chase. And while we're talking about JPMorgan Chase, this week's 10 TV's Clay Gordon sat down for an exclusive one-on-one with the chairman and CEO, Jamie Dimon.
A family or consumer sees this, what do you kind of recommend during these volatile times for them when, gas prices here, $4.49 in Ohio? What's your recommendation, especially since you said it's going to take some time for, the Fed's plan to roll out?
Yeah. So I give you more of a longer term strategy, which is I think we need to do things to make jobs in the lower end pay more. So I'd be in favor of doing like raising minimum wages, changing the earned income tax credit. And I think if oil and gas prices go that up, we have to do something about that because the lower income individuals suffer much more than that. So we need to be very thoughtful. What we shouldn't do is constrain the delivery of oil and gas. That'll make prices go up even more.
You mentioned low income households. and you need to help them out too. I know JPMorgan Chase has been kind of reversing some of their underwriting with loans to make it more equitable for everyone, especially people of color. Could you tell me about that?
Yeah, so we've gone out of our way, after COVID, we started way before all this, but COVID, the murder of George Floyd, a lot of people said we have to do more to help the black community, to help the lower income community. So we've announced enormous programs, $30 billion for racial equity, but think of mortgages for minority families and how we can go about making them more attractive and more available, including using like data and AI to do what I call reverse discrimination. Like, you may not know, but rent payments are not included in credit score. But if you've been paying rent for 20 years, you're probably a very good credit. So we're putting more loan officers in black neighborhoods and things like that. $12 billion of affordable housing, a lot of stuff on work skills to get kids in high schools and community college with skills like coding, program management, cyber, so when they get out, they've got good paying jobs.
Do you think large corporations should be taking stances on major policies, such as potential Supreme Court decisions on abortion rights, so to speak, and even gender and sexuality being taught in the classroom? There are some major corporations that have come out publicly on this. Just what are your thoughts on that?
Like, you have to be very careful on this one. So we support proper voting rights, totally. But when you talk about the voting laws that a state passes, there's usually 100 things in there. And you might sit here and say, well, I support 50, but not the other 50. Same with some of these bills for gender in schools, and same for some of these other things. So you have to be very careful when you say support. We support the LGBT community 100%. That doesn't mean that every law that someone passes, we agree with every piece of it. And so I don't think corporate America should become a weapon for either the left or the right and adopt those things. We still can have our principles, and there are times you should fight those principles, but I read those laws very carefully. We have, and every one of these things you probably would agree with some and not with the others. Why should we become a weapon for somebody else?
Now, what does that mean for some of the branches you have in most states, and some of those states have those laws?
Yeah, so when we have something to say, we'll say it.
You can hear Clay's entire interview at 10tv.com or by downloading the free 10TV app. Violence took over the headlines this week across the country and here in Columbus. The director of Columbus Public Health is calling gun violence a public health crisis. Dr. Mashika Roberts says the shootings are impacting too many children of color, and the city and its leaders need to work together to find solutions. 10TV's Kevin Landers explains how the city is looking to curb gun violence.
They're shooting in the parking lot. I got hundreds of customers in here.
When gunshots rang out in downtown on Sunday,
bullets did go through my window.
It was another example.
How many shots did you hear?
A lot.
That gun violence can happen anywhere, even during a food festival.
And I saw a black guy standing there with two guns in his hands, shoot with his arm straight out, shooting in our general direction.
The question for city leaders is,
what do we do about it? What do we do about it as a society?
And how to keep repeat offenders from reoffending.
When you allow children to get to a certain point in their life, sometimes it's too late.
One way this group plans to reduce gun violence is to attack Senate Bill 22. The law prevents health departments from issuing health orders for groups of people. However, there may be a loophole in the law that would give health departments the ability to regulate property.
Does not in any way mention limitations on regulations of items or properties, simply persons. Regulations that go directly to the firearm as opposed to the firearm owner would also fall well within SB 22.
City leaders believe declaring gun violence a nuisance is one way to combat gun violence in the city.
People in our community are dying at very young ages because of guns. And so we need to see what more we can do here in our community from the public health perspective to help reduce those incidents from happening.
That was 10TV's Kevin Landers reporting. This week, that meeting on gun violence is just one of many that will follow. National experts are going to join in the conversation with city leaders sometime this summer to talk about what other cities have done. The goal is for the city of Columbus to present a plan sometime in the fall. The city of Buffalo, New York is still reeling after a man walked into a supermarket and shot and killed 10 people. Investigators are finished collecting evidence at the Tops grocery store. The evidence shows the attack was planned out and racially motivated. Political leaders in Ohio had this to say after the shooting.
It is domestic terrorism. The terrorist threats in this country are they're international, of course, but a lot of it's white supremacy. A lot of it is anti-Muslim. A lot of it is what we've seen around the country in these mass shootings.
Well, I think my thoughts were the same as everyone's thoughts. Oh my God, this is happening again. It's just horrible.
One of the bigger questions coming out of the shooting involves New York State's so-called red flag law. The law allows courts to issue a protection order that temporarily prevents people who pose a threat to themselves or others from buying or possessing firearms. Ohio's attempt at a similar law failed. Kevin Landers back now to explain why.
In the wake of the Buffalo shooting, we asked both candidates for Ohio governor what more can be done to stop a shooting like the one in Buffalo from happening again here in Ohio.
The mass shooting in Dayton in 2019 that killed 9 people and injured 17 was a crime many believe would turn the tide when it came to gun laws in Ohio. A so-called red flag law was proposed which would allow a judge to take away the gun of someone who was deemed a threat to themselves or others. It got little support at the State House. Governor Mike DeWine balked at universal background checks but supported expanding the pink slip law.
My proposal provided for extensive due process. No one's going to take anybody's gun until they'd gone in front of a judge, a due process. So I don't like to call this red flag because it's not. It's different and it was unique. And that was what we presented to the state legislature.
But the legislature failed to act. Gun violence remains a major topic in the race for Ohio governor. Democrat Nan Whaley was asked what she would do about gun violence in the state. She tells 10 TV she supports universal background checks and said in a statement, quote, "We also need to make sure that those who shouldn't have access to a gun, like children or those with mental health issues, can't get one." Meanwhile, Governor DeWine approved laws that allow permitless carry and stand your ground. DeWine defended his administration's role in keeping Ohioans safe, saying he set aside $1 billion for schools to help students struggle with mental health issues and created a working group that monitors social media posts to stop violence before it happens at school or anywhere else.
They contact schools if they see something on social media that would indicate that there might be a problem with someone.
Kevin Landers, 10 TV News.
This week, testimony on a bill related to abortion rights got heated. Right from the beginning, lawmakers were warned to stay calm. A few minutes into the testimony, we heard this exchange.
The reason this bill is structured the way it is...
That's not the question.
Ranking Member Brown, let's be respectful of the witness. Let's go through.
I would like the witness to be respectful of my question as well.
This was the second hearing for House Bill 598, which would ban abortion in Ohio if Roe v. Wade is overturned. The argument boiled over during a discussion about possible exceptions to the law. It would allow exceptions for cases of ectopic pregnancy, but not in cases of rape.
Two lefts don't make a right. Sexual assault is a terrible crime that is perpetuated against a woman. Abortion simply creates a new victim.
This week, Ohio Democrats discussed a proposed amendment to the state constitution that would make sure women can obtain surgical and medical abortion services. House Minority Whip Jessica E. Miranda is a survivor of sexual violence and abuse and says it's important people have the freedom to make decisions about their bodies.
I know firsthand what it is like to have control over your body ripped away from you. It is a complete violation of your freedom and your autonomy. And it is unequivocally not an opportunity for women, as one of our Republican lawmakers so callously put it when testifying about her legislation to ban all abortions with no exceptions for rape or incest, or the health of the mother. It is absolutely appalling that Republican lawmakers are trying to control women's bodies. I can speak for myself and survivors everywhere in saying that no one should ever be forced to do anything with their bodies without their consent.
COVID-19 cases in Ohio are on the rise, but medical experts say this time it's different. We'll tell you why.
Hi, I'm U.S. Senator Rob Portman. It's great to speak with you all at the WBNS during Asian American Heritage Month. Asian Americans are probably the fastest growing ethnic group in Ohio, and they enrich our communities in so many ways. I had the honor a few years ago to speak at the Columbus Asian Festival, where there was a celebration of music and dance, martial arts, games, and a lot more. It was a chance for all of us to learn something at cultural and educational exhibits. And there was some great food there too. As I said then, Ohio is fortunate to have so many Asian Americans who are coming to Ohio, who have chosen Ohio for a place to start their careers and to raise their families. I'm proud to join you as together we all celebrate the month of May as Asian American Heritage Month. Thank you.
And you can watch the senator's full message at 10tv.com, along with all of the other messages from community and government leaders this month. Now let's get to the latest in the battle against COVID-19 and our Facts Not Fear coverage. Cases are on the rise in Ohio. We have a look now at how case numbers have gone up week to week in the month of May. And before you think, here we go again, we should note the Ohio Department of Health says this increase is different. 10 TV's Lindsay Mills spent the day talking with members of our team of experts to find out why.
We actually have better therapies than we had 2 years ago.
Those treatment options, monoclonal antibodies and Paxlovid.
They are really for anybody, regardless of their vaccination status, who has a high-risk condition.
Here in Ohio, there are 2 types of monoclonal antibodies.
These are medically manufactured antibodies given to help our immune system in its effort to fight off viruses.
Bebtelovimab is administered through a single IV infusion lasting approximately 30 seconds.
Evusheld, on the other hand, is a protective antibody, meaning it's intended to prevent disease among vulnerable people with severely compromised immune systems before they're ever exposed to COVID-19.
Paxlovid comes in pill form and must be initiated 5 days of symptom onset. Therapeutic treatments are not one size fits all. Determining which is best for you is up to you and your provider.
The benefits of monoclonal antibody is that it's a one-time injection, right? If you get an IV line, you get an infusion, and you're done. Paxlovid, the thing that we do worry about it is that, yes, it is a pill, you can take it at home, but it has a component in it called ritonavir, which can cause a lot of drug-drug interactions. And for patients who may be pregnant or may be breastfeeding, we don't have a lot of data on it.
To know where you can access a test or learn more about those treatment options, there's a new section on the Ohio Department of Health's website, coronavirus.ohio.gov.
And that's 10 TV's Lindsay Mills reporting. Experts say these treatment options do not replace getting vaccinated or the need for additional doses. Okay, let's talk about the price of gas. It continues to be a big issue for families in our state trying to get where they need to be. Filling up the tank is costing more and more. We asked Governor Mike DeWine what he can do to help Ohioans save money at the pump.
I don't have an immediate great answer for that. I think it would be a mistake to take off the gas tax, much as that might be an appeal. It's a very small percentage of the amount that people are paying. And then in 6 months, when we're driving our cars and people see potholes and they see that roads are not getting fixed, I think they'll look back at me and say, Mike, hey, that was kind of a trick you pulled. You cut the tax and it saved us a few pennies, but we don't want to drive on these roads either.
We've been hearing your concerns about that baby formula shortage. Up next, we take your questions to the leaders on Capitol Hill and the Ohio Attorney General. The baby formula shortage continues to be a problem for new parents across our state. The good news is a manufacturing plant that's been closed for months will be back in operation soon, but it could be weeks until the shortage lifts. 10 TV's Clay Gordon pressed our elected officials for some answers.
How did we get to this? Empty shelves and a search for baby formula. The shortage started bubbling up 2 years ago, along with many other disruptions in labor, transportation, and raw materials. Then this February, a warning was sent to parents to stop buying certain formulas manufactured at this Abbott Nutrition plant in Sturgis, Michigan. Child illnesses and even 2 deaths were reportedly tied to this plant and to these products.
We've been working with this really since complaints came in about a particular plant.
A whistleblower report by CNN outlined concerns to the FDA months before any action was taken.
Well, we moved soon after we heard about it.
Ohio Senator Sherrod Brown and Pennsylvania Senator Bob Casey wrote the FDA a joint letter asking for answers.
So what kind of answers are you trying to get from your letter?
Well, sometimes there's not an urgency when the FDA makes a decision on things. But more importantly, right now, they need to always understand the urgency when a child has died from a contaminated substance of some kind. And that means immediately get in touch with the company, immediately alert the public.
Major retailers and pharmacies are now limiting the amount households are able to buy at a time.
We all work with Abbott and other suppliers to make sure that there is safe baby formula on the shelves of grocery stores.
We are watching the marketplace.
Some are even turning to the internet or other sources to feed their infants. Ohio Attorney General Dave Yost says he saw a similar pattern with insulin.
We don't know of any adulterated product out there, but when prices start getting hinky, that's something to be concerned about. Buying something from a retailer is way different than buying something off a Craigslist from a stranger.
Ohio does not have a law on the books preventing price gouging. Only protection against deceptive or unfair transactions under Ohio's Consumer Sales Practices Act. If you see anything unusual, Yost says reach out to his office.
We want to know about it, particularly in egregious cases.
I'm Clay Gordon, 10 TV News.
The Attorney General's office tells us they've received one complaint of baby formula price gouging from a pharmacy in Jackson County. A lawmaker from Canal Winchester is pushing for a solution sooner rather than later. Senator Tina Marahat sponsored Senate Bill 314. It would require insurance companies to cover medically necessary donor milk. The bill still needs to be heard by the Health Committee. A new men's clothing shop opened this week in South Columbus in honor of the late former state senator Otto Beatty Jr. After Beatty's passing last year, the family joined together with Impact Community Action to open the Otto Beatty Jr. Men's Shop. The family agreed to donate his extensive suit collection, including shirts, ties, and shoes. The clothing will help men in need of a second chance prepare for job interviews and employment. Beatty's family says he was all about helping other people. The Men's Shop is a way to continue his legacy.
We're sending a great message to the community that we must all pave the way forward. We've been very fortunate as a family because of this community. And so today when I walked into the room and I saw the suits, the shirts, and so many people here, it says to me that there'll be a part of us in young black men, more mature black men, and others who will come to this space, the Otto Beatty Jr. Men's Shop. And it gives them a chance for the future. Presentation is still so important, but also, as Bo Chilton said, when he put on that purple tie of Otto Beatty, it made him feel a little more powerful, a little more ready. And that's what this is about, being ready to go out and be a part of the workforce. And with that, we know that Otto is looking down very proud of this legacy.
And not only will men be able to get professional attire at the shop, there will be other services provided, including haircuts. We certainly thank you all for joining us here today and wish you a great week.